Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the latest episode of Rick and Morty, a Rick and King Mortur's Mort. Mortur's Mort. Yes. And I thought this episode was okay. I didn't have any kind of really laugh out loud moments or anything, but it focused more on the kind of character development of Rick and Morty and their kind of relationship in dealing with kind of nutty ass situations. So we kind of pop off and we see that they're pretty much at this out of the way place. It's a kind of pop up food stand thing. And Morty's like, yeah, I'm just going to stand here and wait in line for this food and shit. While Rick goes off and pretty much gets these wriggly hot dog thingies. I pretty much call them hot dog thingies because the tag at the end comes back to them for pretty much a joke thing. And he's just kind of like standing there, and then we see these knights walking away, and one of them drops like one of the sandwich things. Morty like picks it up, tries to give it back. He's like, "Oh, you should be a knight and everything like that." And like, I'm offering you this sword, and all these. Morty's like, I don't know, man. I just wanted to give you back your sandwich. I don't know what the kind of like taking of the sword entails, which shows that Morty, even though he eventually does take it, at least the waffling and the hesitancy shows he has learned some stuff in his adventures with Rick. Where the thing is that like he knocked Rick for being boring, and that kind of gets to him and is kind of a thing in the episode. But he eventually does acquiesce. But the thing is, the dude then stabs himself in the heart with the sword, and then it takes him and this other dude. And he's like Mortaniel now, Sir Mortaniel, and learns all about like this Knights of Helios who are in the sun, our sun. And the thing is, Rick also learns that the whole line is a marketing ploy for the kind of food truck thing. He's like, yep, nailed it. But we see that Morty's introduced to the place. It's all kind of cool. They're like immortal. They only die when they want to die. They're resistant to a lot of different kind of stuff. Because we learned that throughout kind of... Well, not to a lot of different kind of stuff, but... the Knights fall into some kind of crazy-ass shit, and they're able to do some stuff with, like, drugs that you normally wouldn't... Well, not... They're kind of resistant to it because of, like, their physiology. So they can't OD on it. And he's just like going around. He's like, oh, this is kind of cool. He's like, all right. He's trying to figure out what the whole downside is, and it sounds all pretty great. Except to get into the order, you got to cut off your dick and throw it into the sun. And he's like, nope, I'm good. And then the king just like, you got to fight me and best me in Mortal Kombat to get out of this. And Rick's like, all right, I told you, didn't I? And he's like, all right, just help me out of this, please. And it's interesting because it doesn't feel like Morty's... I could understand how people would be like, hey, Morty's just using his grandpa to get himself out of a sticky situation. He's not really demanding, he's asking for kind of help, and the thing is, Rick kind of acquiesces. He gives him a blade that pretty much had seen the movie Blade, really liked it, and he's able to beat the king, and then the king kills himself, and Morty becomes the king of the knights. He's like, oh shit, what do I do? Just leave me alone kind of thing. They go back, and Morty's waiting for the other shoe to drop for Rick to kind of make his life hell. He's like, no, I'm going to try and like be more agreeable with you about like 22% of the time, as they then haggle about how that kind of works out. The knights still kind of follow him, and because he's the king. But then Morty uses science and everything like that because they're pretty much like hanging around and all that, and showing what their kind of belief system is, that the solar system revolves around this scepter and everything like that. And then Morty details everything of like the science of what kind of goes behind that, and pretty much disabuses all the knights of that notion. And they're like, fuck this shit. And the one dude is like, hey, I'm gonna go do heroin now. And they kind of leave. This one knight was pooping and then kind of leaves, as well as we see that the sun's acting kind of fucky, because then the like sons of the moon kind of popped up and are attacking. It's like, oh yeah, the knights will handle that shit, as we see that everything starts kind of spiraling, because evidently the Knights of Helios were able to kind of keep the system in check. But then we see like Mars, Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, the Earl of Earth, who looks like Santa Claus, and they're all bickering and complaining. And Morty's like, well, this is the scepter. And then it starts a fucking pretty much like World War One kind of thing going on. And then we pretty much see a montage of this, Rick making the thing of like, oh, so this is what happens if you give the Amish nukes, as they start like escalating with technology and everything like that, to do all these different kind of things throughout these like wars for dominance and control of the solar system. And then Morty pretty much tries to get the Knights back. He sees them in their pretty much heroin den, as they kind of like, yeah, we can't OD. And they're like, all right, what if I cut my dick off? Would that get you guys to do this again? Like, yeah, okay. And it's like, Jesus. Morty, of course, is breaking down. It's like, oh, shit, I gotta cut my dick off. And Rick's like, all right, I'll help you out. Don't worry. And then we pretty much go through this whole kind of thing as Rick is trying to get all these kind of countermeasures in place. And the thing is, they keep coming up with ways to detect all this stuff, even having like a witch stick kind of thing. The clones, nano, tech dicks, holographic, every kind of thing. And Morty's like, fuck this shit. And then they pretty much throw themselves into the sun. However, it then goes back to the similar kind of thing of the vat kind of thing that Rick pretty much forced Morty to do. But in this case, Morty's like, just get me out of this situation. As we then see the Knights pretty much talking about how they don't cut their dicks off anymore because Morty made the ultimate sacrifice and threw himself completely into the sun. And then Rick and Morty pretty much are in the background trying to check what's going on. A dude kind of sees them, and Morty's like, you don't tell anybody we're here, otherwise this goes back to you cutting your dicks off. And he's like, alright, cool. It's like, reason and logic on that one. And that's pretty much where it goes. Like, there's not a lot done. I think that the concept could have been done in a different kind of way that would have been more interesting to me, but it's not like the worst episode I've ever seen or anything like that. It's just typical kind of one, exploring things in its own kind of way, which is like, okay, because I think that they could have done some interesting kind of stuff with the whole kind of interplanetary war and Morty trying to kind of figure out ways to kind of fix that, because we just had that kind of going on for a good little chunk, and then just trying to figure out, oh, okay, I'll just get the Knights back in, because he doesn't even try any kind of other ways, or even kind of brainstorming with Rick for other ways to try and like stop this whole kind of war. He just goes back to the Knights kind of premise, and that's not a bad thing, but it kind of disconnects with me. It's like, oh, okay, I understand that these guys were introduced here and then were brought back here. So, it wasn't horrendous, but it's not one of my favorite ones, and that's okay. If you guys like it, that's cool. It's awesome. I'm not trying to get you to not like it. It's just, it didn't really jive well with me, but I would not say this is a bad episode. It executed it well, and it got its story done and across, and it worked. Like, I've seen far worse things that just ride jokes out that just don't work, and this one didn't do that. Even though I wasn't that much invested in the joke, I don't think it was like beating a dead horse to kind of get it back. Which, incidentally, if they went even kind of further, like, I didn't mind that the whole kind of like penis cutting off thing was kind of like most of the major plot point for the Knights. They didn't like hammer it completely, though. The like sensing of fake dicks did get kind of a little bit ridiculous. It didn't get to the point where I'm like, this is just fucking stupid. And then at the end, we get a background tag thing for the like hot dog vendors. Like, you've been doing this hot dog trafficking, as this dude's trying to help all these people, the hot dogs, and like set them out into the sea. He's like, oh, I thought a bird would come, and then the bird comes and takes him. It's like, all right. And I don't mind tags that aren't really connected to what has kind of been going on. It's just this was kind of random enough. It's just like, all right. So I kind of just I saw it, but I was just like not that interested in it. So I'm hopefully the finale one will be kind of more interesting to me and more pull me in. But if it's not, that happens with shows. You just have episodes that you're just really not into. But we'll see how the finale kind of goes. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.